Hi, good evening and welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We also coming to you live on YouTube. Get that on the Guyanese critic page. Wherever you are, good night or good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching football, unfortunately, I did not get to watch football. I heard some major upsets. Some people describe it not so much as an upset. Japan won a game today against a giant. And recently, I think it's Argentina that lost also. I just saw a video that really had me a little stunned. So if I stuttered a little, you guys would have to forgive me. A little kid, it looked less than a teenager, is alleged to have snatched a phone, about 10 years old.
It's about 10.
And caught snatching a phone somewhere. It happened, it looks like somewhere in the city, and snatched a phone, and everybody is there videoing him, and the police hold on to him, and he had what seems to be an ice pick in his back pocket, and the video ended right there. Not a very good sight, not something that I want to see at this hour. So let's get down to business. It is the business end of thing. A few weeks from Christmas, and of course we're rounding up on a series of shows to discuss the state of the arts in Guyana, and it's not something that is coming out. I'm not feeling too happy with it. One could very well argue that we didn't have a lot of money back then, but we having some money now, and we need to start putting that money so that we could develop an area that has a potential to really change the way we perceive culture in Guyana, but also to give credit, ladies and gentlemen, to our artists, to our people who work very hard for very little, and they take time off and they invest the time and their resources to entertain us, and we should give them the credit back. Tonight we have a very young lady who is named after a cinema. Well, let me rephrase that. Her name is like a cinema that used to be up in Enmore back in those days. Entertainment. I couldn't help but see the connection there. Entertainment had the Gem Cinema and more. I saw Sholay, a big Indian movie back in the 80s with my uncles them at the Gem Cinema. Tonight I want to say good night also to my co-host as usual, Freddie Kissoon, who will do the honors of introducing a very young lady tonight.
Good evening. I don't know why he said she's named after the cinema Gem.
I corrected that.
She is named after Gem, which is the common word for exquisite jewelry. But as we go on for the hour this evening, you will see how exquisite has been and is this lady's contribution to the cultural side of Guyana. Now I'm wondering, and in the process we'll ask her, how long does one have to contribute in a society to the different dimensions, engineering, journalism, medicine, before you earn the title of icon? I think Mrs. Gem Madhoo Nascimento, after more than 45 years in theater-related affairs, publishing, tourism, deserves the word icon. So we had an icon on Monday evening, Ron Robinson, and now we have another icon in an area that nurtures the soul of civilization, the arts, literature, drama, the theater. This evening, our guest is Gem Madhoo Nascimento, theater personality, tourism official. She also is in the printing business. We'll come to that. But Mrs. Nascimento, you said to call you Gem. So until the hour, we'll be here with Gem. Now, if you go through the dimensions of society, medicine, law, politics, we have a profusion of women. The area that when you start to read off the names, you're not going to find a woman. In theater, they go back to the 60s. Clement Tate, Ken Crosby, Mark Matthews, Frank Pilgrim, and you could list a whole school of contributions in the theater, in the arts, and they will be male. One person who broke through that barrier and broke through it successfully with boldness, ingenuity, and talent is Mrs. Gem Madhoo Nascimento. My first question to Gem is to expand on one of the most shocking statements I have read in my life of a cultural personality ever made in this country. I will read what Gem said in January and tell me if this thing is not going to rivet your soul. Here is what Gem said. This is in my column. My column is entitled Gem Madhoo Nascimento and Mr. Bastio's brother-in-law. I will now read from my column of February 2022, a shocking statement, and we'd like to get your response. Here is what Gem wrote. Since 1981, I have produced and stage managed over 100 productions at the Culture Center, and almost all productions have suffered from various technical efficiencies inherent at the center. It is now 2022, 40 years later for me, and things are still the same. I want to emphasize again the final words in this statement, and things are still the same. Any racist political scientist from Europe or United States reading this statement by Gem would say, well, this got to be a failed state. 41 years, the main theatre has been breaking down. Gem, you want to expand on that?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me on the program. But before I come to answer your question, you just triggered a little memory when you said Sholay. Is that the film with Amitabh Bachchan?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you a little thing, and before I get into theatre. In my younger days, I was an explorer and an adventurer, and I went traveling all over the world. And I went to Amitabh Bachchan's house in Bombay.
Wow.
And I sat and I had tea with him. And his son was a little 5-year-old, and his wife, I remember her opening the window and peeping out when I went to gate.
You can remember what year was that?
1977. I'll never forget it. I went to like 28 countries all over the place.
He was just breaking out.
Yeah, and she was peeping through, and I said, oh my God, I wonder what this woman is thinking. This young girl's coming to see her husband and all of that. And you know, it was so nice. I sat and I had tea in his garden with him. Unfortunately, the photographs were done in the slides. I sent them to New Jersey to be developed, and nothing came back to me, so I lost all those pictures.
Oh my goodness.
But it was a fantastic experience, just turning up to his gate. Anyway.
Well, when you write your autobiography, please mention that.
That's an interesting tidbit here.
Yeah. Anyway, coming back to you on that statement. Yeah, how many years? It's
41 years of production there.
Yes, let me go back to starting out in 1974 in theatre. I was working at the bank. Francis Faria brought me in. I said I wanted to do something after hours, and he encouraged me to come and join his PSU drama group. Then the first thing I did was get on stage. So I got on stage and I did all kinds of things with Francis, you know, traveling all over Guyana, doing shows and all of that. So we're talking about 70-something years, 1974 to now. And this is still going on. But, you know, in essence, if you were to add it up, what it boils down to? Inefficiencies all around. Everywhere you go, productions are presented in a very inefficient manner. 90% of the production you go to see, they're always, something is wrong. They're going to start late, some lighting cue is going to go wrong, some sound cue is going to go wrong, somebody's going to do stupidness backstage with the props and is going to be caught on stage, you know. So it's happening all the time. The front of house is going to make error. And the other thing is, a couple of weeks ago we went to a music show. And the show was supposed to start at 6:30 or 6 o'clock. We went there on time. We had to sit 1 hour and 15 minutes to wait for the start of the show. Now, what it did for us is
the show started 1 hour.
1 hour and 15 minutes later. And then the disgusting part of it, as I was going in, I'm seeing artists walking in. And I said, what crap is this? The artist going in with the audience? Artists supposed to be there at least an hour. Or depends on how much technical things you need to do and brush up on your, you know, sound and all that. You're supposed to be there much earlier. But, you know, this has become a norm. This is a norm in Guyana. And it's happening all the time. you know, everywhere you go. And I find with music shows especially, the musicians and the people who put together those shows, it seems as though they take it for granted that, you know, if you say 5 o'clock for a show, then you shouldn't start till 7 o'clock. I remember when I was doing a fundraiser for our flood relief in 2005. Keith Waite, you know Keith Waite from London. He started this thing and he approached many of us in different countries where Guyanese were to do fundraisers. And I decided, okay, I'm going to coordinate this concert for National Park. And we had this band, and I'm not going to name which band it was, but when it was 5 o'clock, we had older people who come in there for 5 o'clock to see the show. And we couldn't start at 5. Why? Because the band tuning and testing and doing this. And when the stage manager, I told the stage manager, I said, go and ask him, why isn't he starting? The stage manager came back and said, he said, oh, don't worry about that, this is normal. I mean, I could not believe this. I mean, people who have gone to see my shows whenever I'm producing something will know that I'm a stickler for time. And all the actors who have worked with me will know that. Timing is very important. You have to have regard for people. If you advertise 8 o'clock for a show, you start at 8 o'clock. Unless you have a problem, and you know, things do come up sometimes, issues come up and situations come up and you have to do a late start. You explain and give the audience the benefit of the doubt. You tell them, you know, an apology then. And say, we're ready to start, but you know, so happened. Could you bear with us? And you know, we try to do that if we're gonna do a late start. And sometimes if you have a massive crowd at the culture center too, and you're sold out, and then at 8 o'clock you have a few hundred people out there, then it makes sense to explain to your audience to say, okay, you're going to hold for a few minutes just to accommodate those. Because it's more disturbing for the audience to be walking in late. Now, this is something a lot of people don't realize. When you're walking in late and you're passing somebody in front of you to go into your seat, you are distracting that person.
Of course.
They don't know that you are taking their thoughts out from the focus that they're on the stage. Now, the actor has to work double hard now to regain your attention, you know, to get you to understand and falling back in line with the story. And people don't realize this. The same thing if you have a baby in the audience. So the inefficiencies of the cultural center, and not only the cultural center, but other places are still there. They still exist. I mean, you go and rent the theater. Girl, I went there the other day, and I brought in this girl from the U.S., Ingrid Griffith, to do the Shirley Chisholm show. She was doing a one-woman show on Shirley Chisholm. And the technical side of the things, well, she had a problem with her technical side because she had 100 and something technical cues, and she wasn't too easy to cope with, you know, to get it all right. But the system is bad. They don't have proper lighting there. And it's sad. A nice little theater like that.
But, Jim, when the expatriates who are working in this country, the people at the embassies, when they read one of the most prominent cultural artists in this country say that 41 years she's been experiencing problems with the culture center, 41 years, it's bound to redound. It's bound to affect the credibility of the country. No, 11 years, 13 years, but not 41 years. Dresden was bombed. Dresden was bombed by the Allies in World War II to smitten in 1945. By 1956, Dresden had taken its place as a normal city in Europe. 41 years of consistent breaking down.
I'll tell you
that is surreal.
What triggered that letter? I was so embarrassed. It was the Indian High Commission was having a function at the Cultural Center. It was their anniversary in January, and they had a concert, you know, and they had speeches in between with the songs and musical items and all that. And it was so embarrassing, and I felt really, really embarrassed about it. And that is what prompted me to write that letter. Because as I sat there, I'm seeing, and I know the problem that's coming about, you know. An item, you know, they tailored the event so that there'll be a speech in front, the curtains will close, and then at the back they will set up the, you know, the platform and the musical instrument and whatever, you know, the mics and so. And his speech was about, I don't know, 5 minutes or even more, which was enough time as far as I'm concerned. I've worked there many times and I've done so many shows. for them to coordinate efficiently, moving the set and fixing it and get it ready, so that by the time his speech is finished, the curtain is open and the piece is ready. But he's finished his piece, sat down, and we're waiting there, and we're waiting and waiting. And of course, 1 second waiting is like 10 minutes, right? When you're in the dark and waiting for this to happen. And eventually, when the curtains open, they still weren't ready. So we're now seeing all the flaws, and the set is fixing, and the music and the mic's still fixing, and this is fixing. And then the guy goes to sing, and then it's not working out. Then the microphone on the harmonia thing and all of that is not working, and you're getting all the big bursts. And
It was a disaster.
oh my God, this was embarrassing, and the president was sitting there too. It was really, really embarrassing, and it really pushed me over the edge, and that's why I wrote that letter.
Well, you generally known to be not an aggressive person, gesticulating.
Exactly, I don't
So
just...
when you wrote this, I had to do a column on it. Gildarie?
Several things were said here, and I'm amazed. Every time, sometimes I sit during this program and I got to shake my head inside. We're talking about discipline, turning up on time to events. If you hold a show, like you hold a live award show in the United States, you better start on time because the whole world is watching.
Of course.
If you're doing a beauty pageant or whatever it is, awards, Academy Awards or whatever, and they run it tightly within that time there, and you got to be on cue at all times. How do you sit down and wait 1 hour for an entire show? So that's the first thing. The second thing that I want to raise, and this is get people thinking, this show is all about education, ladies and gentlemen. I received a call yesterday morning, and the person said, do you know that some of the RDCs and the ministries and the NDCs are not going to be able to finish a project and spend some monies at the end of the year? It's a yearly thing. You know what some REOs, some scams and scallywags, because when I started looking at it, I'm going to address that matter when it comes to why people take certain aggressive actions and why maybe they're late from the front lines. Freddie Kissoon, some REOs, some PSs, and I think overseers, make sure that they spend the money on the last day of the year, so they can put it on the books that they spend the money, no matter if the project is not finished or not. Year after year, the Auditor General has to go back and says, but how come you spend this money and you didn't finish it or you didn't toe the line? Freddie Kissoon, how do you spend 30 million on the last day of the year? If that is not the biggest fraud, Freddie Kissoon, how do we deal? Jem, how do you explain that? You want to know the reason why I brought that issue up, Freddie and Jem? The reason for that is that we could find money to do a whole bunch of stuff, but we can't fit the
Don't steer this lady
No,
into
but
the
hold
area
on.
of politics.
No, it's not the area of politics.
Hit the roof.
But hold on.
I'm sure he's watching.
There's another side to it too.
Mr. Kit Nascimento is watching.
There's another side to it too. When we have people who are making priorities projects in Guyana, how does the culture center not become a priority in Guyana? You ain't looking at the thing every day driving on home stretch. You ain't looking at the thing passing it going along Mandela. You're looking at it and make it worse.
You're satisfied with the management of the culture center. You want to speak to our viewers. That's a major institution in Guyana.
It's a major institution. Unfortunately, it's the only one that we have to put on our events, but it's used by any and everyone. The churches use it, the schools use it for graduation. Everybody's using it. So it's not only used for theater alone, which is sad. But then we have to fight and tussle for dates with those people. Anyway, pre-COVID was a different scenario. Now it's post-COVID. It's a different scenario altogether. Before, what used to happen, and in fact I should go back to 1981, before the theater company was started. Before that, the culture center was a white elephant. We used to call it a white elephant because nothing was happening there. The only thing happened at the culture center was the CC variety shows that, what's his name, Lord Canary, used to put on every month at the end of the month.
That's when he was a minister?
When he was a minister. He used to put on CC varieties. That was the only show that used to happen at the culture center every month. At the time, the Theatre Guild was in its heydays. We used to run a play for 21 nights at the Theatre Guild. Every night except Monday night, which was the dark night. 3 weeks. Theatre Guild doesn't do that anymore. There's no play that goes on at the Theatre Guild that runs for 3 weeks. So that culture, that whole system has died out. For what? Because there's not enough support for those kind of shows anymore, or the caliber of the actors are not there. I don't know.
It's sad.
It is
very,
sad.
Very sad.
It's sad.
It's an indictment on us.
But I'll tell you what we did when we formed the professional company, the theatre company, and we ran Witness for the Prosecution. We rented the Theatre Guild. We ran for over 3 weeks. The show sold out almost every single night. It was a fantastic production. It was a courtroom scene. I think Ron was talking about it the other night when he was here. One of the better shows that we've done. But after we, while the Theatre Guild was in its heydays and doing all those fantastic shows, I mean, you talk about Tennessee Williams and all of that, View from the Bridge, and Father Gardner directing plays and all that, and
God, those were the good days in there.
good days. Oh my God, I wish they would come back. And after that, what happened is we used to be begged and cajoled to go over to the Culture Center and put on shows. Why are you running a show for 3 weeks here when you could run it for a couple of nights there? We always say, oh no, Culture Center is too big. This is nice, intimate theatre, and all of that. And when we decided to start this professional company where you had to make money now to pay your actors, which was happening for the first time, that's when we started thinking about the Culture Center. And then our challenge then was, how are people getting there? Oh my goodness, no traffic is passing at the Culture Center. But the traffic was up, by the way, by the Theatre Guild. That was easy. That was normal for people to get there. And strange enough, look what has happened. Look what the Culture Center has turned into. So in those days when we started, every time we want to do a production, like say we do a show now in April, okay, we want to do one in July, it's easy. I just call up the administrator and I get a date. After the Culture Center became popular, and then you had new playwrights who were born, and it came into the scene, starting, and new producers and everybody picking up on the challenges, and they see that it's happening and it's making sense and it's working. Everybody started producing. You had Bascom started producing. A lot of the actors from the group with us decided to take up the challenge on their own and start producing and all of that. And so the Culture Center, of course, came into its own. And I'd never forget a scene on the first night of the Link Show, 1981, in November the 1st. When the show
41 years ago.
When the show was finished, I went to the bar and I looked outside. The Culture Center has a glass door, the glass wall. I looked out at the Culture Center and I saw a massive group of people walking home. And I turned to the barman and I said, "Where are those people going, or where are they coming from?" And they said, "From here." I said, "What?" I mean, I was in awe. I was shocked, and I was pleased. Because you know what we had done? We had brought the grassroots people into the Culture Center, into live theatre. That for me was a major achievement. Because if you recall the days of the Theatre Guild, it was a different level of audience you had. Because remember the Theatre Guild days stem from diplomats and foreigners and bookers and so who used to work here. And so they, along with the Guyanese and a few Guyanese who got in, like Ron and those kind of, we say high collar people, got into the Theatre Guild. And so this is now, we took theatre to the masses in this country. And this is fantastic because look what it's doing now. So,
Absolutely, Jam.
What was the question? I stray all the time.
No, that was a comment. I don't think people know, because of your name in theatre, but you direct, you produce, you design, you write. But you don't act.
No, I'm not an
actor. And people know that.
No, the thing is that when I started with Francis Group, I started out on stage, but the stage thing is not for me. I'm more an organizing person. I'm more the behind the scenes person. I don't crave this coming out in front here.
You don't like acting?
I don't think I'm very good at it. It's not a strong point of mine, let's put it this way. In the Link Show, I would come out and do cameo parts and you know why I do it? Just to give it a little ethnic balance on stage. This is no joke, this is serious. That's why I go on stage, to add to a little balance of the ethnicity that we see on stage.
Your thing here says more than 100 productions. That's an achievement.
Well, I think to date, I'm chalking up nearly 300 productions.
Gildarie?
People don't.
I want to really.
You're a literary icon.
Yeah, I want to ask her, have you made money?
Yes, I can say yes, and I've lost money.
Mm.
I've made lots of money in some shows, and I have lost lots of money.
So even then,
Even, I'll tell you the one, we did
Can't
Jesus
say
Christ
anything.
Superstar. I'll tell you this, we did, you know, with the theatre company, did Jesus Christ Superstar. One of the most brilliant piece of work we have done in this country, a musical. In fact, the USIS head at the time, he had seen it on Broadway. And when he saw our production, he told us, because we knew him very well, he said, you know what, I think your production was better than Broadway. Oh my God, that was one of the greatest comments we could have gotten. And that was in the early stages when we started, 1984, because we started in 1981. So, you know, over the years, we have done a lot of really, really marvelous and brilliant production, brilliant musicals, and some very good serious plays too, like the Cesar Bansi's Dead, which Ron said he was in. But before that, we brought down Wilbert Holder and Errol Jones from Trinidad, and we staged it at the Cultural Center. They were doing a tour of it, Cesar Bansi's Dead. And do you know, the entire small theater, we did it in the small theater of the Cultural Center, the entire theater stood up and gave them a standing ovation. Now,
You know
that
what?
kind of thing doesn't happen in this country. We don't give ovations that easily. You got to be very good to get it.
You know what I think you have not been given recognition for? And I think when you did that, it was a seminal contribution to theatre. Gildarie, Jem produced a fantastically popular play, controversial, popular, staged in 140 countries in the world, in 50 languages. And this person sitting on right next to us, who graced the home of Amitabh Bachchan, brought it to Guyana. The Vagina Monologues.
I know.
I don't think I like that play. I have
You
a
don't
problem.
like the name of it.
No, I don't have a problem with the name. I have a problem with the message. I consider myself a feminist. I have a daughter, I have a wife, and as a man who believes in equality, I am an unashamed feminist. And I think that play did a disservice to feminism, but I don't want to get into that. But I think what was going through your head when you said to yourself, I'm going to bring this controversial play to Guyana. The Vagina Monologue is very controversial.
Well, you know, at the time there was a Canadian woman, a VSO lady here, and she was attached to the Ministry of Culture, and we were pretty close. We worked together. She had done a Guyanese play, Calabash Ali, at the Culture
That's
Center.
Freddie Kissoon thing.
No, sorry, not Calabash Ali. This girl from New York wrote, a Guyanese girl, Calabash something. Can't remember the name. Old age. Anyway, Jennifer Davis was her name. She directed it for me. I produced it. And Jennifer was game. She was game for it. We chatted. And I take chances. I take chances in so many different plays. Controversial plays, plays with religious conflict in it. I've done many of those over the years.
But you wouldn't say the Vagina Monologues was one of your boldest ventures?
I think so. I think so. It was.
What was the reception to that?
It was pretty good. We staged it at the Embassy Club. I did, and actually the first night of that show, I gave the proceeds to Help and Shelter. I did a lot of that actually. In fact, I think I must be the only person or only theatre group in this country who has done many shows and given proceeds to various organizations like charity or sports. I worked a lot with the Ghana Rugby Football Union. I used to get the guys involved, come and work in the bar, do security for me, and I give them part proceeds of it, you know.
Well, what you and I might view as art might not necessarily be art in other people's eyes. So Freddie might not have an appreciation, but I understand that maybe.
No, I think she was bold in bringing it. The play was a worldwide hit.
Yeah.
I just thought, as a feminist,
Right.
the play had it had a misdirected philosophy about it. When you
We're not going to get involved in discussing.
When you look at the Vagina Monologues, the original Vagina, since then it has been modulated and moderated. I think from what I haven't seen the play, I read it. I remember it's a big controversy in my class at UG. And I still stick to the view that play was telling women that the power they have in this world to preserve their gender, that whatever success and influence they would have in a male-dominated world is a possession of the vagina. And it reduces women to, that is their power. But women are much more than that. But anyway.
I must say that I like your perspective. I must say that, Freddie Kissoon. I want to ask Jem this. This is a question, and we're talking about the development and an appreciation and a good posture, the right posture by the authorities towards the theatre in Guyana. Why did nobody see it, or why did a leader not emerge and says, let's all band together so we could approach the authorities, the government, the administration, to get a better deal, to get some better conditions? Why was the need for that? Okay. I can't understand.
We should have, actually, the actors really need to get themselves together and form an actors association. I have felt that from since the time we started being professional and start paying actors, because, you know, theatre was free before. You did all the work free. You didn't charge, you weren't paying and all that. It wasn't until 1981 when we started the theatre company and we registered a theatre company, and we had contracts and we signed actors up with a legal contract designed by Hughes, Fields and Stobie, and that is what they get paid at the end of it. So it tells the actor at the end of the show, even if I lose money in the show, you will get paid. Unfortunately, some of the young actors who came out of our system and feel they could become producers, of course took the contract and signing contract with actors. At the end of the day, and the show lose money or the boss them, as we say, and they can't pay the actors. So unfortunately, those kind of things happen. So since then, I always felt it was needed for the actors to come together and band themselves together and form an association. But as Lyndon said the other night, nobody ain't coming together in this place, right? And nobody ain't coming together. Now, fast forward to 2022. The minister decides, post-COVID, he's going to increase the rental of the cultural center. The rental right now is an $80,000 flat rental for the entire building. Then you pay 20% on every ticket you sell. So if you sell a ticket for $2,000, you're paying 20% additional to the $80,000. And then you have to, of course, print your own tickets. You have to pay for the ushers separately and for your technical rehearsals for the show. Before they used to give you at least 1 or 2 technicals. Now you have to pay for a technical rehearsal. Mr. Minister decides, and with no consultation from anybody, we're now coming out of COVID. We're now catching ourselves. Okay, we want to get back into producing. Link was the first thing that appearing now at the culture center. And I get this note saying, oh, the rental is now going to be $500,000 up front instead of $80,000, and they have taken out the surcharge. Now the advantage of that is if you're guaranteed you're getting a full house, it works for you. But if you're not guaranteed for a full house, it does not work for you. It will send you into bankruptcy. So I fought it. I tried to get a number of producers to come together because my thought then, let's make a representation as a group. I was out of the country and I asked 2 people to follow through with letters to me and circulate it because I didn't have everybody's email address on WhatsApp and all of that. But the people who came out and said, yes, they supported were actors, and I didn't want actors. I wanted people who were producers because we are the people who matter in this regard. And you know what? Because I didn't get the support, you know what I did? I did it on my own. I wrote on my own. I sent a letter. It didn't appear in the press. And asked and showed the situation. I said, go back to your old rental and go back to your surcharge. But my initial thing was that seeing that we're coming out of COVID now, we don't know what kind of response we'll get from the public. Whether people will be scared to come out and attend shows, which there were. A number of people wrote me and said, look, the link is the only thing they come to the culture center to see. Do you have the tape? Because my husband doesn't want to come because of COVID, even though COVID is gone and all of that. So there were people, it affected people still. So, and I said, okay, instead of charging 20%, take the percentage down, take it down to like a 5% or 6% or something like that, stagger it. And I got back a letter saying, okay, they revert back to the old rental, but they did nothing about the surcharge. They left it at the same 20%. So we were faced going back post-COVID now to start producing again with the same rental that we were faced with before. And now you say, okay, we have oil and gas and we have money. Now the culture center should be making it even easier for us, you know.
Yeah, it's an idea.
Taking off.
Jem, I have said it in my columns. I've said it so many times in the program. I find President Ali a positive man who's going in positive direction, and he can call on me. What you have just said that there, I don't know if Gildarie knew that. I didn't know that. I cannot accept that. I think the arts theatre should be made easier for actors and producers. I would hope there is some reversal there.
I hope so.
Mr. Nascimento is not a person without a big voice in this country. He's your husband.
I know, but
Freddie, let me jump in here
Well,
because
what she said,
we need to
it's
drop parallel.
disturbing.
We need to drop parallel. I
No,
always use the example of the
do you know,
NTA.
stick a pin. A couple of years ago, I did a whole breakdown in the newspaper in a letter, and I don't know, I can't find it now. But 54% of your proceeds is paid out. When you add up the surcharge, the rental, the this, the that, and that, it works out to 54% out of 100% that you're paying back in costs to VAT, to the culture center, and you haven't even taken in costs for your props, your costume, your actors, and all of that.
Let me rant here a little. In America, the MTA bus, when they're being run, there's an inspector standing at the street to make sure that they run on time. You have to run state companies to make money. Now, I would agree if you use the argument that the culture center needs to make money, but Jem has made it very clear, and we know that. You're now coming out of the pandemic, right? You got to boost your people. Freddie Kissoon, why is the government sitting in office if its first priority is not to ensure that the people's the people's welfare and all looked after? I draw a parallel here now too. Why is it that in this day and age that only certain people, I want you to pick it up or not, could drive a SUV that's worth about $50 million because of the calculation of tax? Do you know how much money you pay on a unlimited CC vehicle? Yet you could have parliamentarians, and I said this before on this show, could take their what you call it, their unlimited CC vehicle that they get on a duty free and sell it. You want to go talk to the people who are selling vehicles. Freddie Kissoon, I'm not finished.
My problem.
Freddie Kissoon, we could go on and on and on, but why are we not looking after the people?
My problem with Jem's pronouncement is that she said, I hope I'm quoting right, the minister did this without consultation.
But that is a priority.
I will have in a new era with that, in which the minister of some area, the chief guy for agriculture in some area would call the relevant people, say, we want to start aquaculture in this area. What do you think, man?
Well, let me make a point. You believe the minister wake up one morning and said let us do that? Where are the advisors? Who advised the minister? Unless the minister is not taking advice.
They have been meeting, all the ministers are meeting and consulting with everybody else. And we keep saying, what happened to the theatre people? What happened to artistic people like us? Nobody was meeting with us. I mean, I saw when the president met with the musicians and the dancers after May month and congratulated them. And they did a fine job for independence, independence celebration.
The minister would have had to meet with the managers of Culture Center. And if the managers made something like that, you're supposed to have all the stakeholders sitting there. It's going to have an impact if you do that.
I was really shocked when I got that letter. I said, where did this come from? Nobody was concerned. They didn't even have a meeting and call our producers and said, this is our intention. How do you react to this? How do you feel? Give us your opinion.
When I ran into Kit Nascimento 2 weeks ago at the massive supermarket, and when I run into him again, I'm going to say, what are you doing? Your wife is a theatre icon. Anyway, we keep talking in this program, and when you look, time's up. This lady has many dimensions. I was once told that she wanted to be a flight attendant. We'll come back to that. But she's also in the tourism business. This is her production. This is her book. This is the latest edition. It's Guyana, Where and What. And I look at it before the show start, and I think, is this free, Jen?
Yeah.
Right. Please make sure.
Advertising
you get-
pays for it.
we cannot finish this program without talking about your name, because you're married to a person that I think, except A.U.C. Quayana and Ashton Chase, two persons in this country that has longer political participation in politics. A.U.C. Quayana, who's not going on to 98 next year, and Ashton Chase, who is about the same. There is Kit Nascimento, more than 70 years in politics. Controversial politics, but politics nevertheless. You're married to Mr. Nascimento. How did that romance blossom? I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard the question.
But it's a very famous man. It's a very famous man. We know she has so many dimensions. Let's talk about that, and then we're going to go to her resort. The name I can't pronounce.
Huracabra.
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 It begins with H. I wanted to say Huracabra, but that would sound like the Linden Highway. How did this romance blossom?
Oh my God!
I think people want to know.
Ken and I knew each other from a long. We were all friends, all of us. Me, whoever I was with at the time, all of us were great friends, and then we used to go up to Esquibo to his. He has another home up there, Esquibo, which he built since 1976. And so from friendship and then one thing after another, my relationship broke up, and then he got divorced, and we still continue to be friends, and long
One day he
time.
popped the question.
And then from the friendship developed a relationship, and the relationship only lasted for like 2 months, and he popped the question. Oh, but he's very old-fashioned. I'll tell you what he did. My mother was in New York, and he came up to meet us. This was the second time we were taking the Link show to the U.S. And he came up and he met my mom and gave her a bouquet of flowers. I don't know if guys do these things now. Give her a bouquet of flowers and ask her for my hand in marriage.
That's a smart thing to do.
I did.
You did the same thing, right?
I couldn't believe that.
Freddie Kissoon, I asked you a question.
You come from you were born in a sprawling area of 5 acres.
Yeah.
And a sprawling family,
Big family.
9.
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, well, me.
Well, 9 plus you, 10, yeah. They're all over the world?
Yeah, I'm the only one here and one brother. But,
Like your husband, he's the only one here.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have anybody. His brother's dead. But my sisters are in between Pennsylvania, New York, London, brothers in Miami, and one in Ghana. 2 of them are dead, a sister and a brother. But coming back, I'll tell you,
Yes.
Kit and I had the most unusual wedding in this country.
Oh, you see,
don't
it's
know
good to
about that?
ask the question.
You don't know what
If you don't ask
we
the
got
question,
married in swimwear at Balcara Falls in the Mazarini River. Oh my goodness, this thing was...
there was a service performed when you were in swimwear.
Well, I had my nice...
This your phone, you have any phone?
No, I don't, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness.
I don't.
I'm in the twilight zone, ladies
No,
and
no
gentlemen.
photograph of it.
No. But,
So the priest is reading the thing. Do you take this lady? You shall now kiss the bride. And you two guys are in swimwear.
I had on my bath suit and I had a beautiful shawl made of orchid, a wrap around me.
And he had a swim
And
trunk.
Ken had a swim trunk and he had like a dashiki kind of top, like a Hawaiian kind of top.
I really want to ask Freddie.
When we were finished, when
Shut up.
we were saying the vows, they said we had to get into the water and that water is ice cold.
Which area was this? Where you have your result?
Where Balcara Falls is,
Yeah.
in the Mazarini River.
Who was the priest?
We found somebody in Bartica to come and do this.
So it was in common parlance, was a cantor priest.
No, the man was a preacher.
The man was
But
a-
he came and he did it, and we signed the book and everything, so it was legal. The then Venezuelan ambassador to this country, I can't remember his name, he used to tell us every time he saw us at cocktail, he said, you have to come and register with us, you got married in Venezuela all the time, because Mazarini is what they claim. Anyway, that was a joke.
So you have an interesting life. You had Amitabh Bachchan looking at you. Then Nascimento looked at you, you married you.
How do you jump to this conclusion?
But she said she was uncomfortable. Here was this young lady in Amitabh's house. What is his wife thinking? So now you married a famous politician. Then you married in unusual bohemian circumstances. So were you ever a bohemian?
No. we were both people. We were river people. It was a natural thing to happen.
So is Gildarie going to get a free invitation and free dinner and lunch at your resort?
Well, guess what? Right now, as I speak to you, we have the new owner for the resort there. We've sold it.
Oh,
It's too much work. I mean, we're getting old.
Yeah, Kit told me he's 91.
Yeah, and
Wow.
how old do you think I am?
Unfortunately, I'm looking at this book here.
I used to
and
carry
it's,
a big photograph of the resort in it, but of course we don't.
The resort
own
is in it
anymore.
now?
No, it's not in this one. It's
I'm
in the
looking
last
at this thing here. I
Oh yes,
put
the
it,
photograph when you got married in your swimwear.
it's not cheap printing these things here. I'm looking through it and I don't see a lot of ads.
No,
And
it's
I
not.
don't even see the Ministry of Tourism. Why they're not here?
No,
Because
that's
the Ministry of
shocking.
Tourism turned me down.
The what?
They turned me down. This is a tourism book and they turned me down. They said I didn't have any money.
When
They
how-
turned you down?
Yes. I'm telling you this. This is shocking.
Are we serious? This is a Guyana wearing what, ladies and
No,
gentlemen?
the minister is not
No,
that.
that's
I thought she's a trailblazer.
Well, she has a department of tourism. So I contacted the Department of Tourism. They advertised in the book last year, the one there last year. So when I called them this year, they said, oh, their budget has been exhausted. I said, oh,
Early this year?
no, this is late this year. I think I called them in August.
Something is
It's
important.
there's
There's a map.
Said that
Look, there's a map in this book, and you come in and you
they
can
didn't
get
have
it.
a cent.
Where and what in Guyana, where to dine,
They didn't have a cent that they could have contributed.
eco wonders.
Not one.
Not one.
I tried to get the minister, but she never returned the call. I left a message with her secretary because I took my husband's advice. He said, call the minister because I was in shock, that they were turning me
And the
down.
minister never returned a call to
So
Madhoo
whether she
Nascimento.
got the message is another story. I don't know.
Sometimes I wonder, I'm not talking on this specific case, but I wonder if politicians really understand the role in Guyana, whether they really understand what they went into office for. Every single day, we see every day police vehicles blazing past and then they stop at the supermarket, they're speeding down. One day I think somebody took out a picture, the ambulance is speeding to stop at the
I want to hear more what our guests.
No, but Freddie Kissoon, do not hide these things. This is upsetting that you do that.
I want to hear what.
This is people's thing there, and we have people who are doing this.
We have a guest here, and
I'm sorry for
I
that.
want to hear what she is saying.
But anyway,
That thing about the minister not returning a call, not a cent contributed to this. This is.
It can't be the minister. It got to be somebody low down. I don't believe it.
No.
no,
Jeremy
because
can't
they
do
have
it.
their department.
She
They have a
comes across as
tourism
a-
department. Not the minister. They have a tourism department within the Ministry of Tourism, and that's the department.
But this is
that-
a yearly or whenever every year you
Exactly.
do this. And so how
So
come you not
that's
having a
what I
budget for
asked
that?
her. I said, you guys advertised in it last year, so it's going to come out this year. So how come you didn't budget for it? So did you budget for it? And he said, well, of course she couldn't. answer.
Sometimes I think I'm getting a little too old and impatient for the Kissoon.
Well, that's what happens to me.
I was like that.
Yeah,
So
for this.
please take my place, please. I was like that. Please take my place. Congratulations
Thank
for
you very
being
much.
the
I'm
new
gonna take
Freddie
this.
Kissoon.
No, no.
Anyway, coming back to that, Kit and I built this
Yeah.
retirement home in the Esquivel, which you started asking me about. I never finished.
Yeah, he intercepted us with that.
But did you really understand what-
He intercepted with policemen.
You
like
really
that.
understand what this lady
Please,
said?
Jim, please.
No, but
She
you
wants to
understand
talk- she wants
what
to
Jem
talk.
said? Jem said that every year the ministry has money set aside for it. And then all of a sudden you wake up and says we don't have that in the budget. Do you understand what she said there?
I understand and I'm
It's a bit
disappointed.
difficult to believe and disappointed, yes. And for me, I just said, well, the hell with that. I move on, go on to something else, find another sponsor. So the only year I didn't publish that book, it has been consistently published every year since 2007. So this is now my 14th edition. But the only year I skipped was 2020, which was the year of COVID.
2020.
Yeah. 2020, there was, no tourism and nothing, so I didn't do it. But I was telling you that we built this house in the Esquivel River to retire. And my dear husband decided he wasn't retiring anymore. So of course, what are we going to do? Maintenance is pretty high in that part of the country. You know, the jungle's right behind you. You have to constantly keep it back and wear and tear. So we decided to open it as a hospitality building. And so we had Hurricane River Resort. So I ran that for 15 years, since 2007.
While doing your theatre thing?
While doing my theatre. In fact, my theatre decreased during those years. In fact, I was asked to run the Theatre Guild since then by two of the eminent persons who were raising funds for the Theatre Guild. They asked me to take it and run it. But I couldn't handle the resort and Theatre Guild, because Theatre Guild was a full-time commitment. So anyway, we've sold it, and the new owner is here right now with his whole family. His family is probably coming in at the airport right now, 8 of them. So they're all
It's a Guyanese family?
Yes, in fact, he's from Bartica. He's originally from Bartica, and then he migrated to Canada, and he's been there for 40 years. And he was looking to speak to someone about getting a home in the Essequibo River to sort of retire / make it business too, and rent it. And he said he Googled all the places in the Essequibo River, and he came upon my name, and he read about me, and he called me, and I was in New York at the time. So he flew over, and we had a meeting, we had dinner with him, and this is a year ago, almost a year ago. And so it's now complete.
So that's a part of your legacy is gone.
Yep. It's a sad part, but the responsibility was too much.
Yeah, Kit is
Because
on.
if you're not there to manage things, all kinds of things happen.
But it was successful?
Yes, for us it was our relaxation, our weekend home, and at the same time we shared it with guests, and it was nice. People enjoyed their visits. I think in all the visits we've had, maybe you've had 1 or 2, I could really point them out, negativism. But it's a nature resort. It's not swimming pool and fountains like what we have down the river from us. You know where I'm talking
But
about.
he is converting it to a private residence?
No, he's gonna continue the business. He's gonna be traveling from Canada back every month or however often, and he's gonna entertain guests. Because you have to upkeep, you have to expend too much money to upkeep a place like that. So why just shut it down only for your purpose unless you're a billionaire? Make some money, keep your staff busy, because you have to keep a staff while you have it. You can't leave it unattended.
Well, you see, there's a part of this interesting conversation. We're learning about our people. Madhoo Nascimento, ladies and gentlemen. And when you would have listened to what she's saying here, it's not all about theatre, but she's given us a lot of insights into a little of Guyana, a little of the riverine community, a little of what people do in Guyana, a little bit of our personality, one of our personalities here in Guyana, a little of theatre as well. Freddie Kissoon, we have like about 10 minutes there about going forward. If you have the opportunity to say it to the government, to say it to the decision maker, the number one decision maker in this country, Irfan Ali, President Irfan Ali, what would you say to him with regards to theatre, the actors in Guyana, and facilities in general?
Well, first, there was a controversy between myself and Vishnu Bisram in the letter writing thing, because when I wrote that letter to the Indian High Commissioner, he started talking about the cultural center was built with money from Indian repatriation funds and all that, and then Barnum took it over and he did this and that and the other, and he said what we should do throughout Guyana is put little cultural center, Indian cultural center, and I'm saying, why do you have to have Indian cultural center throughout Guyana? Have a theater space that can be used by any and everyone to do whatever. You want to put on an Indian play, a Hindu play, an English play, an Indian show, whatever. But you put up a proper facility with proper lighting and sound system. Because when you're trying to take theater outside of Georgia, other than Leitch's Hall in Linden, there is nothing proper.
Well, he was saying the national funds should go to erecting an Indian cultural center.
Now, how much was that
there?
national funds and how much was it used at the cultural center? Now, I'm saying it's not too late to do it. It still can be earmarked as, a monument built from that money. You can still do something in the cultural center. You can still put something on a wall somewhere and make it very prominent of what it represents. So, but we need centers throughout Ghana, and that is what I would like to see happen. But I mean, I wrote that in the letter, but I don't know who saw it and if anybody saw it and took heed of it or what. So that's one of my things that I said that we should really get going. And you see, in that way, people will not say, oh, you're all doing all the nice shows at the culture center, you can't bring it to us. Because if you have the facility, say in New Amsterdam or Skelder or Rose Hall or Anne Regina or so, more of the producers will take their shows out. We did a lot of shows outside of Georgetown, but it was always very hard. You have to walk with your own lights and your own sound, and it's a lot of equipment, but you did it when you were young and excited, and you had all the energy, so hopefully the younger producers will do it now.
There's a technical question I want to ask for my own, my understanding of modern theatre in the 20th century is that you have more than one stage.
Oh yeah,
we are backward by 100 years.
We backward by thousands.
There's one stationary stage at Theatre and one.
I think we were the only person who ever tried and built a revolving stage on that culture center. 1986, I'd never forget it. A play called 2 into 1. We built a revolving stage on that set. The people couldn't understand it. They were mesmerized what was happening because the stage was moving. It was a hotel room, and you had the different rooms sliding forward. And one of my staff, we had an advertising agency, and he said to me, why don't you all open the curtains and show the people what the set is like? And we rerun the whole thing. It was on casters. And let me tell you the nightmare of that production. I was not the stage manager, but I had to end up stage managing it because it was so confusing. Because when the lights went out and you had to turn the set, the actors they didn't know where to move because this place is pitch dark behind there. And my grandmother died, I'd never forget this. And I couldn't go to the funeral because I had to sacrifice the play, which would be in chaos, or I go to her funeral. My mother never forgave me for that. But the two stage managers folded their hands like this because they didn't know what to do. And I had to step in and take control of the whole thing. It was madness, but it was beautiful. So it was the only time that they had a revolving stage at that culture center. And we borrowed the casters from IEL, and we had to wait until they closed shop on the Friday before we would get them. And the show was opening the Saturday night. So we really never had a chance to technically rehearse properly with it.
I cannot find it. When you invited this woman, I went to research it, and I cannot find it anywhere. But I know I read it. I read you said you wanted to write a book on, I don't know if you're autobiography on theatre or what, but I read somewhere and I can't find it. There are many
things. There is one. When I went traveling in my 20s, because that was something very unusual I was doing, a little Guyanese country girl, 5 years in the city and going all over the world. I was only 24 then. Right. So I wanted to do one since then, but I will incorporate it as something when I write later on. But I wanted to do something on theatre because Frank Thomason did a book which ended in
huge
2000.
Volume.
Right.
It's
so I want to take it. I want to take it from 2000 to date. So that I want to work on. So now that I don't have the resort responsibility, I think I will have more time now to focus that. And now that I'll be stepping back from theatre too, I will have more time.
Okay, so we should expect some
writing
publication from you.
Right, and not theatre. Because the hassle to get a theatre space now is not easy. What I went through to get the theatre, to get the culture centre for the Link show was not very easy.
No, that cannot be right.
It's being micromanaged right now by the ministry. The administrator of the culture centre, the administrator of the culture centre is not running it anymore. So if you want to have a play there, you can't go to the thing. You have to write a letter to the minister or the PS, and then however long it takes for them to answer you, if they will answer you, heaven forbid. You get the date or you don't get the date.
You want to take a minute and analyze what she just said there, Freddie Kissoon?
I don't have to take a minute. It's impacting on me.
But what I'd like to do, when you ask me what I'd like to see for the future, I think what should happen is the government, now that they're coming into money, is to give a subvention to the arts.
As in Jamaica?
Yes.
But who manages that?
Well, the ministry will have to give that. It would have to come out of government funds. They would probably have to set up a special committee to do it. Now, the Ministry of Culture gives out a grant every year of $1 million to several people who are writing, who are doing television work, who want to write a book, who want to produce a play. Now,
$1 million Guyanese dollars.
I am telling you.
That's 5,000 American.
Right. But anyway, they're giving out 10 million a year, and it's been happening for the last few years. But I'll tell you what's wrong with that. While it's good, and I'm excited to see it, the people who are getting it, what are they presenting? I heard one person got it to produce a television series. Not that I think he can produce it with $1 million. You know, I don't know what he can produce, but I suppose it's an encouragement. So you can go after sponsors, and that helps you. But I don't see anything. I have not seen anything from that person, which means that what happened? That person's pocketed that money. Is anybody following through? Somebody has to follow through to see that money is used. And then I see somebody else put on a play that I've never heard his name before. I don't know how she qualified for $1 million. So while it's good to give out the money, who are you giving it to? Do you have a proper committee who's reviewing these names and deciding who must get it? You know? So we need to get, because we have to go back to getting the serious plays. I mean, I've stopped producing the serious plays because I lose money every time I produce one. And I'm not going to do it anymore.
You did Julius Caesar with some young people. You lost?
What? I lost money both times on Julius Caesar. I did it once in the home stretch, what we call it, sports. The sports hall?
Cliff Anderson.
Oh no, that was a perfect place for it because it lent itself to the arena scene, you know, the whole setting, the court. It was lovely, and so Brad Singh, I put directing it, and he was just coming out, young student, come out from drama school, so he was really, really very excited, but the sound messed it up. Even though I spoke to the sound man, and so there we go back to the inefficiencies. I spoke to him, I said, these are the challenges, I've been told about the sound, what are you going to do about it? Now, guess what he did? He put the speaker right where I am behind scenes, so I'm hearing this. So for me, there's no problem with the sound. Until halfway through it, some of the teachers come, they're not hearing anything, they're not hearing anything. What do? You throw your hands up in the air and say, oh God, do you do this again? And then the first time I did it at the theater, at the culture center.
You met Amitabh Bachchan so many moons ago. Look what he has become. Rabindranath Tagore, the poet, is idolized in India. Now look what Amitabh has become,
exactly.
And you're here fighting 41 years
to get a very efficiently run production. I'm still fighting to get it.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have kind of run out of time.
Oh my God.
America has Elizabeth Taylor and so many other good actresses, and whenever these people appear on programs like this, they're idolized all over the world. We have Letitia Wright and Rihanna overseas, but these are people that we're very proud of. What are we doing about the people who are right here in our homeland, our women, our actors? And this is why this show is here, that it's not only we took some time out, Freddie Kissoon and I, so we could start paying attention to some of the things that matters, and you have to start waking up, folks. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you telling your politicians, your leaders, wake up and smell the coffee, that you have a job to do. There's nothing wrong with telling your opposition that you're going to stop talking, and start making meaningful contribution. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with you telling your PS that we're going to report you because we know that you have a big house somewhere. And the REOs too. And those council members who are sitting there and having a conflict of interest and having contracts, there's nothing wrong with that. We have to start opening our mouths, and some of the stories that we hear coming out here today and over the last couple of weeks, if it doesn't tear at your hearts, well then nothing else will, ladies and gentlemen. So wherever you are, we're going to be back with you on Friday. I want to say thank you to my co-host as usual, Freddie Kissoon, and of course to a very lovely guest today who's given us a lesson, not only in the theatre live in Guyana, but also a little of tourism. She's given a lot to this country. We have to be very grateful for that. We have to be very grateful for the stories that she has told today. She's a good storyteller. let us pay attention to our people, ladies and gentlemen. They're the greatest of our assets, and we should treasure that. We have a beautiful country. Good night wherever you are.